So here we will be seeing about the review of literature, and it can be done in many frameworks. That's what we are going to see, the frameworks. The first framework we call it as PICO, P-I-C-O. Or can anyone tell this one? P-I-C-O, population, intervention, comparison, and outcome. So how do you? So suppose if you review your study, you can see what population they have taken. So what is the sample of their study, and then what is the intervention they have given. So there may be two groups. Generally, we call it as experimental group, and the another group is control group. To one group, we will give the intervention. The other group, we won't give anything. And in the third step, what we have to do, we have to compare. So compare between the two groups and what was the findings. This is how we go. So this is one type. PICO, we call it as. So the second one is called as 5Cs. So anyway, so this is the 5Cs: cite, compare, contrast, critic, connect. So same thing, only putting in another name. So the other name we have. So what is the first one? Cite means. What is that cite? So you have to give the whatever study we are taking, we have to give a citation. Otherwise, it means plagiarism. So that is cite. So you are giving citing references. There itself you write now the name within year, bracket within years. That is called citation. References. Then compare. So if there are variables, suppose let us take a variable intelligence. How the intelligence has taken by the researcher 1 and then researcher 2, researcher 3, how they have taken. Whether the researcher 1 taken in experimental method, researcher 2 in survey method, or researcher 3 by case study, whatever. So compare the same variable with different researchers, or you take different, maybe there may be another variable also, achievements, intelligence, achievement. So compare these two variables across the studies, how it has been varied, whether increased or decreased, whether no influence at all. Again, as we compare, again also we have to do the contrast. Not only with the variables, you can also take methods, comparison with the methods, variables, sampling technique, tools, findings. In all the levels, you compare and then contrast. Whether there is any influence, whether there is no influence. So the similarities and also the differences among the variables, methods, sampling technique. So all those things you do. And then critic, which one was the best among all these things? Which one was the best method to study intelligence and achievement? If these are the two variables, so which one was the best method, and which one was the best tool? Suppose when I was doing PhD for emotional intelligence, Anukul Hyde. This tool was used by more number of researchers at that time. So we have taken this tool as a model for my research. So from the review of I found out that. Therefore, you can also see whether the tool has used by many people. Frequency. So that is the critic, and then at last connect this to your study. Connect these two with your study. The variables, intelligence and achievement to your field, to your study. So all those things we have to do. So this is 5C: cite, compare, contrast, critic. Compare and contrast goes hand to hand. One is the similarity, the other one is the differences. Then critic, and at last connect to the field of the study. So then the third one is TCCM, theory. Next, what is the one? Context, characteristic, and then methodology. So theory, if you take Sarikos, the previous scholar, what was the theory? The theory is theory of planned behavior. This was the theory of her dissertation, theory of planned behavior. And what is the context? It is the context they have taken as a school. So the theory behind the dissertation is theory of planned behavior. They have taken context in the school, not in the university or not in the companies, whatever. And characteristics is the variable. So what variable they have taken? Leadership of the principal's leadership, and also inclusion. These are the variables for that study. So theory of planned behavior is the theory, and the context is school settings. In school setting, what they have seen, leadership behavior of the principal, and if the principal possesses good leadership, whether there is inclusion in the schools, the exclusion has reduced, whether it is reduced or not. And methodology, they went for mixed methodology. So whether it is experimental survey or mixed, whatever it is. So this is also PICU, 5 Cs, and then TCCM. So these are the frameworks through which you can go for review. So this is the type. What are the type we can go for? Either you can go for by theme based, or you can go for any variables or any theme based. You can take those. Generally, we go like this only. If somebody go for theories, you can go by frameworks. Suppose if your research focusing upon theories of intelligence, you can take framework given by one factor theory, two factor theory, seven factor theory, or more than that. So you can go with. So this is based on theme or our variables. This can be based on framework. Bibliometric can also use softwares. So meta-analytics. So this we have to use. Whatever maybe that this can be coming in meta-analysis. And another thing is meta-systematic. Already systematic review has been done. To that systematic, if you do meta, then it is called as meta-systematic. So this is the second type. And hybrid is if you take more than one. In your suppose this meta-systematic is also hybrid. Hybrid means two types we are taking in one review. So this is the type we have. So systematic procedure and rationale for SLR. Systematic procedure and rationale for systematic literature review. SPAR for SLR. So here you can see three words. What are the three words? So assembling, arranging, and assessing. So it's not much difference. They are saying in different words. That's all. So first you gather your studies, and then you arrange your studies, and then you go for assessment. Assessment is otherwise review. Okay, identification and then acquisition through Google Scholar or Scopus or Web of Science or whatever. Then you organize, and then purification, either inclusion exclusion criteria, then evaluation, and then reporting. And these three are the major words. But all the framework, starting from the first PICO or TCCM or 5C or this one, 3As, this one we call it as 3A. So what are the 3As? Assembling, arranging, and then assessing. So all are one and the same. So putting in different words, that's all. So generally we classify the literature like this. So white literature, it's what more you are using this one only. So white literature, peer reviewed publication. Before the publication, we call it as grey literature. Before coming, or otherwise, the thesis in the universities. So the thesis in the universities, we call it as grey literature. Why do we call this as grey literature? The thesis inside the university or in the library of the university. We call it grey literature because it is not public. It's not in the public domain. And when someone does PhD before 20 years or before 30 years, they physically move to that particular university and see the thesis. But now it is not the case. Even thesis in Shodh Ganga you can also see. But now Previously, it was not the case. Therefore, that one we call it as gray literature. Once it published, we call it white. And by UGC, all those things, UGC, Ministry of Education, NCRT, NEPA, we call it as official agency reports. Preprints we call before coming to public domain. Preprints we call it as green, and pink literature and black literature. So generally we go for white literature, for white and blue. So what is this? Strings for review. So you know this. What are the strings for review? Or and not. So if or you put, it broadens our review. A or B or C. If and you use A and B. Therefore, suppose where we get, suppose if you give this in Scopus or Web of Science, where you get more number of papers. Or in R you get more number of, because it broadens. If A is there, it will show. If B is there, it also will show. If C is there, it also will show. If you put A and B, if only A and B is there, then only it will show. It's not A or B. A should be also there, B should be also there, then only that paper will be coming. So A and B. So narrows our research. A or B or C, it broadens our research. And if you put, if you say, I don't want C, that variable, so that will be eliminated. So A or B and not C. If you couple first and third, you can also couple second and third, A and B and not C. Therefore, C will be eliminated, remaining paper will be coming. So, since its elimination, again it will be reduced. These are general strings for either in Scopus or Web of Science or PubMed, whatever it is, you can search like this. So, these are not going to elaborate. So, there are many systematic reviews. Generally, we go for systematic literature review, or scoping we can go, or meta-analysis. Sometimes in meta-analysis, again, they may go for, in second chapter itself, they may go for statistics. So they take the effect size across all the researches, and they go for the correlation coefficient of all the effect sizes. So those things they can do. There are different, generally SLR can be taken or scoping can be taken. So again, the same steps, whatever we have seen in the previous AAA, the same thing, steps in systematic review, that they have elaborated, stepwise they have elaborated. If you see, there are 10, and if you go to the Prisma, they have checklist, they have given 27 checklists there. So anyway, just you can go through once. And this is compulsory in our dissertation. So after strings, which you have given in Scopus or Web of Science, you have accumulated some studies, and you fill this format. You fill this format. What are the inclusion? What are the exclusion? And finally, how many studies you have? This many you have downloaded. How you have eliminated? And finally, how many you have? So fill this. So this is important for us. And then this is also must for us. So I have given my example. You have to give your own example. This can be either theme or this can be either frameworks, the center one. So the title is Review of Literature. This one, the second one is, this can be either theme wise or framework wise, whatever you have seen. Variable means variables. So it is seen in three categories: emotional intelligence, teaching competency, and emotional intelligence strategy. Then we went for meta-analysis, and then critical review, and then identification of research gap, finally formulation of research. So till that you have to be in the, so this is in one page. Again, everything it will be followed from the next page onwards, it follows. Until this end, these are the title of your, again under this you will be giving reviews. The next page you have to give the reviews under this category. So number one, then you have to give under this category, number two, Then you have to give under this category number 3. Likewise, you have to give. Generally, you have to give in descending order. So 2026, then 2025. So arrange your researchers in descending order, and then you can give. After this, second, then three, and then you come to this title, meta-analysis, and then you come to critical review. So then this title, then this title. So these are your titles of subtitles in the chapter 2. Okay, so this is one example I am giving. So my own example only. So this is my PhD dissertation. You can see Srinivasan 2000, and the name of the year, attempted to develop and validated a strategy on emotional intelligence based on Daniel Goleman's model of emotional intelligence and to find its effect on teaching competence. So that's a mixed method design is adopted. A pre-test, post-test, control group, experimental design along with focus group interview is followed. The experimental group is treated with a strategy while the control group is not. Purposive sampling is adopted with a sample size of 40 in each group. An emotional intelligence scale, situational, and a teaching competency scale have been constructed and validated. Both tools are administered pre and post test to the control and experimental group to collect data. The developed strategy is found to be effective in enhancing the emotional intelligence. The enhanced emotional intelligence positively influences teaching competency. The focus group interview reveals the effectiveness of the emotional intelligence strategy and its influence on teaching competency. What are the various heads in this? If you see, that's why I read fully. What are the various heads you could see in this narration? Yes, you can name a few. Methodology, sample, model.
Theory is there. Well, first of all, it starts with theory,
Ah.
then variables. Then based on that, you design like which research design will be used. Then you decided the sample.
Okay.
Then you develop this.
So this is again I have color coded. I have given the first one is the aim of the research or what is the objective of the researcher. The second is the method. The second color is the method. Okay. The third one is the sampling technique along with the sample size. The fourth one is the tools used to collect data. And then the final one is the findings, major findings. Because if you take a research, if you take a research, there can be many findings, but give only the major findings. You cannot give all. If you give all, then that will be some five. It will runs 5 to 6 pages. So take alone. One more thing also here added. Anything, any guess? One more thing you can add here. So what is the thing you can add here? So in this you can add the statistical technique. What are the stat? That also you can add. So with that the narration ends. So this is how you have to write one thing, which you copied from Scopus or Web of Science. Okay. Mostly it will be like that. Otherwise you add all those things by reading the particular article. And this is meta-analysis. I have given only one like this. Study 2, study 3, study 4, study 5, study 6. You have to tabulate all those things. So the title here is the author on the left. So next, after the author, so you have the variables. So what are the variables they have taken? So you keep on tabulating all those things so that you can analyze easily. Those things are in paragraphs. For paragraphs, it's not easy to analyze, go through. Suppose if you make it a tabular format like that, from here you can find just by going. So suppose if you have some 50 studies, and if you all the 50 is in the tabular column, you can easily find who has taken more number of sample, who has taken less number of sample, and how many of them have done research in emotional intelligence. So like that you can see. So these are variables. Then methods. What method they have adopted? Suppose if 50 studies are there, and among the 50, if mixed method is for 35, then mixed method is major. then we should not do a mixed method because many of them have done. We can go for some other method. We can go for a longitudinal or a cross sectional. So for a PhD, longitudinal is not advisable. Cross sectional can be taken because longitudinal goes for more number of years. So sampling procedure, what sampling procedure I have adopted? So here we are across the 50 studies. If it is 50 is for you, how many has gone through probability? How many has gone through non-probability? So those things you can take. Here only I said previously, if you keep jolting the tools here, and finally you can see which tool is getting repeatedly often and often. So that tool may be a prominent tool. If more number of researchers are using a particular tool, personality, Cattle's personality tool, many people are using. So you can take the tool because since it is widely used, and if any strategy is there, and then the major findings. So this is how this is meta-analysis. So this is extending tabular column. Just one only I have kept for discussion purpose. So below the tabular column, after once you complete the tabular column, then you have to go for a paragraph wise writing. Here you have to write the paragraph wise, and again the title is meta-analysis only. So how do you write means you can take the titles separately, titles by title, like variables. How many variables are there? Someone has done emotional intelligence. Somebody would have done with achievements. Mostly somebody else would have done with achievement. Somebody would have correlated with stress. Somebody would have correlated with communication ability. Okay. So likewise, what are the other variables? If this one is our variable, which is for the understudy, what are the other variables they have taken for for their research? So how many are there? How they are related? And what is the frequency? Mostly, if you go to school education or higher secondary education, sorry, higher education, generally we will take achievement as one of the main variable because we want whether our students have learned or not, rather than seeing stress or some other thing. If you go to psychology researchers, they may take many variables. If you take our educational researchers, many researchers will be having achievement as one of the variable because we see how much they have learned. So, and what is the frequency? All those things. So that you have to keep writing. So for since once the variable is over, then go to open next paragraph, and then you say in methods. How many among the 50 studies? How many experimental were there? How many survey were there? How many mixed studies? How many qualitative? Generally, qualitative will be rest in Indian scenario. Therefore, it is more profitable if you go for a qualitative study. Again, frequency among the methods. Again, same thing. We take third title as subtitle as sampling design. So, which sampling design was more prominent? And who has taken more sample, who has taken less sample? So all those things you can write here. So n is sample size, and tools, which is the most prominent tool, which is the less prominent tool. So those things. Some tools are internationally used. Okay, one emotional, I think emotional intelligence EAQ, they are used in 14 countries. So those tools can be taken because it is worldwide they are using. Is those tools can be taken in India if India is one of their one among the 14. Next, the final thing is in major finding across the 50 researchers, what is the relationship between or among the variables? So this one you have to write paragraph after paragraph. Even under one heading, there can be 2 or 3 paragraphs in variables alone. So you keep writing. So don't try to finish within some 10 lines. Whatever comes to your mind, see the tabular column. From the tabular column, you can keep writing. Across these subtitles you can keep writing as it comes to your, because the tabular column is much more better than narration, so through that you keep writing. So by this time you could have got some idea of your research, what your proposed research, and that will be the next, that is what is the next one. So I think before that, identification of research gap. So formulation of research design. So this is for my research. So after going all those things, the meta-analysis and identifying research gap. So the variables I took as emotional intelligence and teaching competence as a variable because these two was not connected by many studies. Therefore, there is a gap. To fill that gap, I have taken these two variables for my study. So method, I have used a mixed method, where mixed method is very less till that time. Therefore, I have taken mixed method for my study. So this thing also you have to say in your at the end of your second chapter and sampling design. So since it is an experimental study, so purposive can be better. We cannot go for probability sampling for an experimental study. For survey, probability sampling can be followed. So n is 40 in each group. So why 40? Because 30 is the limit for the small sample. Therefore, more than 30 is better. So we kept it as 40. So these tools are constructed by the researcher, emotional intelligence skill, situational and teaching competency. And based on all those things, the title proposed for the study at that time is this one. So developing a strategy for enhancing emotional intelligence and its effect on competence in teaching science of B.Ed trainees. Okay, so this was the title. While you are going for syntax, note the syntax is suppose B.Ed trainees can be called in different names. What is another name for B.Ed trainees?
Student teachers,
Student teacher, you can say.
research teachers,
Student teachers, pre-service teachers. Any other?
prospective teachers.
Prospective teachers. This is what we have to give in the syntax A or B, prospective teachers. Then only it will pick the study because different researcher use different names here. So here MEd will not come. If you say all these things, they are not MEd student. Only they are either B.Ed or in diploma in teacher training. So this is important for us. This you have to give. Almost how many are there? The gaps? 3, 6, 9, 12. So 12 gaps are there, but all the 12 may not be necessary. But what are all applicable for you? Those things you can write. At least minimum 5 to 6 you can write. Minimum. So that will come. Generally 5 to 6 may come, but not all 12. So they have given good, here itself they have given good example. All the title they have given good example. So knowledge gap, not enough, this is example, not enough clarity on how microplastic influences human health. So there is some knowledge gap that you are addressing in your research. Methodological gap, absence of universally accepted way to assess social media addiction. To assess that, we don't have any universally accepted way. Theoretical gap, traditional motivation theories do not completely explain remote work behavior. So traditional motivation do not completely explain remote work behavior. So not working in a institution like this or working at home. Working at home, we cannot see the motivational theories, the application of motivational theories, and empirical gap. Limited long-term evidence on the effects of meditation. So it's an empirical gap. Then population gap. So these things, it's a very good example. Pregnant women are often excluded for clinical studies. So this is population gap. And geographical gap. Most mental health research focus on Western societies. So geographical gap. Therefore, we can do it in Eastern societies. Temporal gap. So long-term studies. Generally, we may avoid here because ours is about 3 year or roughly 4 year. Practical gap. Proven learning strategies are not widely adopted in schools. So many researchers say that this is good strategy for enhancing achievement, but they are not taking in schools. Normally, they go for lecture or demonstration. Contextual gap. Leadership research often ignores cultural differences. And causal gap. A link between diet and disease exists, but causation is unproven because there are maybe many factors for a diet and disease. Technological gap. Difficulty studying brain activity in real world environments. Finally, evidence gap. Mixed findings in studies on screen time and sleep quality. So, let us see any gaps exist and let us tell in the thesis itself the gap. After the gap, you can go for the design. So, the gap leads to formulation of research design. So, this should be prior to the our design. So, just rearranging. So again, here also you can correlate. So whatever you say that leads to our research graph directly goes to problem statements. So all these things are correlated. Whatever you say, suppose there is a knowledge gap or there is an evidence gap, that will directly reflects in our problem statement. So like that it should be. That's why the second chapter is the pathway for our research. If this is coming fine, then the research will be good. So see to that and correlate. So from the gap, you also tell your title. All those things that should have addressed. So this is something not there. We are saying that something not there will be addressed by your research. So because, then you are supplementing to it. You are adding to that. And this is one I found, but anyway, whether this number is suffice or not, I do not know. But just I came across, therefore I am telling. Anyway, 30 is less when comparatively, but it depends upon the area of that research also. If very new research, we may not get 30 also. But anyway, this is one good thing is how do they say 30? 5 you have to take in foundational. So foundational paper 5. So then 15 directly related paper and 10 recent papers. But just for having a glance, that's all. This is what they say. So that's all. So this is, and Prisma I have taken this, you can use it. Prisma-statement.org, you can see all those things. There also you can see that 27 number checklists.